pass.
We'll bring this meeting of the Nicolet City Council to order. Welcome administration, the rest of council, and you folks out there in the audience. With that,
All right, Mayor Cook,
yes,
Councilwoman Grove,
Present.
Councilman Bond,
Here.
Councilman Shannon.
Here.
Councilwoman Wright,
Here.
Councilman Lindsay.
Here.
And Vice Mayor Eggleston.
Here.
All present.
with that, we'll have the invocation between trustees.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the day and your many blessings and many favors. Thank you for the weather. Lord, please be in this meeting. Let only thy perfect will be done. Bless our troops, our first responders and their families. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, I need action on the minutes for the April 21st meeting.
Councilwoman Wright,
Yes.
Councilman Lindsay,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eggleston,
Yes.
Mayor Cook,
Yes.
Councilwoman Grove,
Yes.
Councilman Bond,
Yes.
and Councilman Shannon.
Yes.
And I see we've got some communications from Mr. Fitzsimmons.
And yes, Mrs. Clemens Pinstick is the director of the Clark County Emergency Management Agency, and she'll be up here to discuss the hazard mitigation plan review that is attached to your council packets.
Thank you, Council, for having me tonight. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for inviting me. I know that package that you got was rather large this time with that plan. That plan is for the entire county, so hence the length of it. The hazard mitigation plan, I believe I've been here multiple times to discuss it, worked with many of your staff members to drill down on some of the action items that we have in the plan. The caveat to that is that even though that you have action items in this plan, you are not required to complete any of those items at all. Those are what we call pre-established items. If any hazard mitigation money would become available, those are shovel-ready projects that we can go ahead and move forward with. Again, all depending on funding availability after disaster situations. And that's really only time that the hazard mitigation money comes down is after major disasters, either within our county or to an adjacent county to us. And then we would go through and work with whomever as jurisdiction is ready to, work through the plans that you have already identified, or I'm sorry, the projects in that plan that you have already identified. So that could be flooding, it could be backup generators for water plants, it could be generators for critical infrastructure. There is a whole slew of things that we could choose to spend hazard mitigation money on in that plan. I know one of the questions Mr. Hall asked me about the plan is why is it smaller, significantly smaller than the last plan? So that one, this plan gets updated every 5 years. And that is a federal mandate for my office to complete with all of our jurisdictions in the county. And so it is smaller because any duplication of wording, facts, anything like that, we took out. So we tried to condense the plan down. A lot of that plan is also the communication that we've had with the different jurisdictions via email, Zoom, in-person meetings, things like that. We are required to include all of that in the plan. So while the plan is rather large sitting on the desk, that's not necessarily the whole plan. That's actually how we got to the shorter version of the plan. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the hazard mitigation plan. Tonight on your agenda, I believe, is action for a resolution to adopt the plan. That is also a federal mandate for us, is to get our jurisdictions to accept and adopt the plan so that we can get a federally accepted plan and be eligible for that hazard mitigation money if it comes available.
Go ahead, Ken.
I saw there was an error, and I didn't know if you wanted those or not.
Sure.
Do you? Okay. It's not a big deal, but you got Randy as our person.
Yep.
And it's Donnie. And then the other one was, gosh, where'd it go? I wrote it down. Oh, it had some really cool stuff in there, too. If you do read, I only made 300 pages, so I can't, but it's really interesting stuff. It just says, where is that?
It is a living document, so if you do find it or.
I'll just email it to you.
Absolutely. We can
I wrote
update
it
it.
down, but I don't.
And then we will get Randy changed out for Mr. Hall. He was just the one that, when we went through the consultant to do that, he was the one that was working with us. So we will update that, and that will not change your resolution wording or anything like that. So we'll get that edited.
Go ahead, Bill.
It's just a question, it's not that I think it'll fail. What if it does fail? If we don't pass it?
So if you don't pass it, any projects or any hazard mitigation money that comes available, the city would not be eligible for it. We have to get, I want to say it's 80% of villages and cities, and then the county has to adopt the plan. So all the townships are absorbed under the county. So all of our villages, all of our cities have to pass it, and then the county. And I believe it's 80%, but whomever doesn't sign the resolutions to pass the plan would be ineligible for funding.
How many has already passed the resolution?
So Village of Enon, City of Springfield, I think the list on my desk in my office, I'm trying to think, there's about 3 of them that have already passed it. We have a year to pass any resolutions from the date that I've received the federal okay. And so that was about a month ago. So we have a year. I try not to let it sit on my desk for that long, trying to get it all through. So it is completely up to you if you pass it tonight or not, or at all.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, it really comes down to funding the projects.
It's hurting yourself if you don't pass it and then need the funds
Right.
for a disaster, which hopefully, we can always hope we don't have a disaster, but, we've been hit with a tornado here in New Carlisle. So.
Yeah, and that's the time that we typically get the funding allocated, is when those disasters happen. Not when they happen, after they happen, and in the recovery processes. And so then that would help mitigate some of the repetitive flooding or the generators or anything like that.
So it's strictly for natural disasters?
Not necessarily natural disasters. It can be, cyber attacks. It leans more
Grain elevator
towards.
collapses?
Do it.
A grain elevator collapse?
Not that one. That one we can look at other funding. I figured that one would come up.
We used to have grain elevators standing over there that are quite old.
That one we could look at more local funding or state funding for that one. But this one leans more towards the disaster funding.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
This is a every 5-year thing, so I'll be back in 5 years. We do review it annually, and then we'll send out updates to your staff that's working with us on that, because that is part of the entire planning process, is to continually review it. You guys did have some projects that were completed with some roadway work from the previous plan that was done, so albeit not with hazard mitigation funding, but funding through the city itself. So we update that annually.
Go ahead.
On the funding, and I can't really remember, we can get some funding prior to a hazard, correct? On certain things like generator backups, things like that?
Depends. It really depends on the project and then
Yep.
what funding streams are available. With everything that's happening at the federal level right now, things are tied up a little bit.
Right.
But at any time you can reach out and say, hey, this is what we're looking for. What are funding mechanisms that are available? A lot of it can be tied to critical infrastructure and things like that, so we can search out those opportunities.
New fire engine, maybe?
I wish. Every chief would be asking me for that one.
I mean, I'm just thinking, police department.
We looked at an EOC thing, that if there was a Western EOC, to have a possible generator backup in our 101, that could be a command center.
And so there are different funding mechanisms for EOCs and things like that. So when you're ready to talk about that, reach out and we'll look at those too.
And if no one else has anything else, I just wanted to thank you, ma'am, for coming out here. I got the mitigation plan. It's week 3 on the job here, early on. And when I finally got my head wrapped around it, I reached out to her early last week, and she immediately dropped everything that she was doing, made herself available for all my questions, along with Chief Trustee. it seems like, at least from the county level, we have very good folks that are getting into the worst case scenarios of things that could happen to our community. So I hope it's the first conversation of many, that we can continue to collaborate and work together along with Chief Trustee and all of our, other folks that are involved in this process. So just again, I wanted to thank you for also coming out here and being willing to summarize this massive plan here for us.
It's one of many.
But thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank
We
you, guys,
appreciate you.
and welcome. Welcome to the city.
Thank you.
Other than that, nobody else has any questions? Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go from that to the city manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, and neighbors. For our departmental reports, we'll have those available on May 19th. Just got a couple discussion topics for you guys tonight. First, we got a big day tomorrow. It's an election day, special election. We got 2 items of interest for the city, the police levy and the charter amendments. So with that, just I hope everybody goes out and votes. The next thing is, it's been kind of a reoccurring even before I was selected to be your city manager, is some of the social services issues and challenges that we have within our community. So I've worked with Mr. Brian Moore, our planning director, and I know you guys motioned for a work session. I've titled it Social Services Strategic Working Session. So we hope to have a couple handfuls of our mission partners, nonprofits, churches, shelters, different organizations that we have here locally within the city and then just our surrounding areas. So I'm very hopeful of this, to have an opportunity as just kind of a think tank for us to sit around, identify what some of our resources are, and then collaboratively work together. And my hope is that, through this strategic session, we'll actually develop a plan and identify some points of contact within our community when these crises come up at our front office at the city building, where folks are in need of different types of assistance, and we can have our folks that will then triage the situation, not the government, and then, work with the network of folks within our county and our community to help address some of these issues. So I very much look forward to that meeting. For everyone that me and Mr. Moore have reached out to, people seem extremely excited to have this opportunity to speak with you all. So I look forward to a week from today having that session with you guys. With that, is there anything else that you guys would like me to add to that working session or prepare for?
I think you had mentioned to me that you wanted to go over that one plan we had, the retreat.
The strategic visioning session that you guys held last June. I think that would probably be best to have a separate working session on it. Kind of looking at this, again, taking an investigator approach, like what are the immediate needs of the city right now? Where are some of the issues that, are right here in front of our face? And we have, human-related problems that, we have to address these folks, just kind of like a medic on a battlefield. Like, these are the most dire needs that I see right out of the gate is, we have real human problems going on with the cuts, to aid, First Harvest Food Truck, and also kind of a litany of different, situations revolved around the human person right now that are impacting our folks. So my hope is to, address those types of things, utilize our time to triage, and then lean on our mission partners who have this as their mission to help address some of these, issues that are, involving our residents. And then from there, we can kind of springboard into our next working session to really get into the nuts and bolts of, how what you all collaborated on last June, if there's any changes to that, strategic visioning session that you all had. And then that will give me kind of a landscape for my team to be able to go ahead and plow forward with, making this community the best we can.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay. Next thing, just some upcoming legislation. We did actually get to, me and Mr. Kitco met with D.R. Horton last week to talk about the Honey Creek Bond Agreement, along with just how the development is going. And Just kind of, you know, is a very good kind of Q&A session for me as I'm kind of coming in here years after this thing has started to, again, get my head wrapped around this development. And I think we are very close to getting this bond agreement settled. And we hope to have that done very quickly. So all is well on that. Kind of a similar update on the codification updates. From what I understand, this is with the consultant firm. They're finalizing the codes right now, and our hope is within the next couple council sessions, we'll actually have legislation in front of you so we can start to lean forward on streamlining our codes. And that's all I have for the upcoming legislation. I did just, I guess with that, the additional discussion topics I was going to talk to you about. Also met with Ethan Harris, our County Development Director. And I tell you, there's just, and I also had an opportunity where investors actually sought me out and contacted me about their interest in New Carlisle right now. So it is just this constant positive trend. And, just reinforcing, not only to you all, because I know you guys understand that while you're sitting up here, but, to our community members, New Carlisle is extremely desirable right now to, not only raise a family, but to also do business with. So it is a time of, excitement for our community, of, just having, with D.R. Horton, one of the things he explained to us, he has 2 developments going on in the Miami Valley, the other one being in Xenia. And the one we have is almost twice the size. And it just goes to show of, this national developer looking at the Miami Valley of where, strategically would it be best for us to invest in, and they're choosing New Carlisle. So, we have the development going on now, but, I don't think the discussions with D.R. Horton are over with. They see how desirable this community is, along with Mr. Harris at the county level. The favorable things he has said about New Carlisle and his hopes, for our future, with these developments and more. I just thought I would give that, to you, council, along with our community, that New Carlisle is in a really good place right now. And with that, sir, unless you have any questions for me, that is the city manager report.
As far as I can see, nobody has another question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
That's the first.
I'm
That's
sorry.
the first, isn't it? That we don't have questions for the manager.
All right, well, moving right along. Committee reports, I don't think we've got any. Are there any comments from members of the public out here? Go ahead, Janelle.
Janelle Zimmerman, 219 Prentice Drive. I was just wondering if you could explain a little bit more about the changes that are going to be made that we vote on. I was reading what it said, but I didn't really quite understand it, about changing the wording. And I tried to look up what the old wording was, and I couldn't even find it on there anywhere.
You're referring to the charter?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the charter.
I believe the charter, if I may, sir.
Go ahead.
I believe the charter is on the webpage of the city webpage.
I went on there, but I could not find those numbers.
They've hidden it. I don't know why. Maybe we can get that moved to a more prominent position.
The one item that I believe that I had recommended to the committee was the fact that when a person desires to run for council, he first off must have to go over to the Board of Elections, secure his position, or petitions, pass them, then when he turns them in, he pays the fee. At that point, he or she must put a letter of acceptance in with the packet. If that letter of acceptance is not with that packet, that person's petition can be thrown out, and they would not be on the ballot. My personal feeling is if a person has went to the Board of Elections, got his petitions, been out here on the streets, got 25, 50, 75 signatures, it shows me some interest that he or she chooses to run. I don't understand why we then need a letter stating that I will accept. And that was my reason for putting that one on the charter. And I'm trying to remember, the other thing was, I think the situation with the fire chief,
And service director.
yeah,
to-
that
and
we
the
need
lawyer.
a consensus of council before the city manager could dismiss any of those people. I think we were already in there on Mr. Kitco
No, financial director.
and the financial director.
She was the only one that was cemented in the charter.
And I think this was really just I guess the word is a step in maintaining status quo of the personnel we have on with the.
So previously,
Go ahead.
some of those didn't need council approval then?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the charter change, what we did was we secured, and we didn't want a city manager coming in, whoever that city manager would be, and clean house and bring his own people in. We wanted to show our employees that if Mr. Kitco does something so outrageous, which I'm not saying he ever will, he never has to my knowledge, that the manager can't just fire him like he could. Like right now, he could
Right
be
now, he
fired.
could.
Right this
Okay.
second, he could be fired
Okay.
for anything, just because manager's having a bad day. But what we did, if that part passes, then the service manager, the fire chief, and the law director all needs, if the manager wants to get rid of them, he has to convince us seven, or whoever the seven is, that he's incapable, he's whatever, and get our approval to dismiss him. There's some cities do that, some don't do that. I hear there's a lot of comments on Facebook about it from people that don't live in the city. But we think that's the best way to go to protect our long-term employees. Because anytime you have new managers come in, most of the time, or a lot of the time, they will want to bring their staff from another city with them that they worked with, that they like. And they want to, okay, you're out of here. This guy's taking your job. Fire chief, you're gone. We got a new chief. We don't want that. We like the staff we have. We feel, I believe, as a council, that they're all doing a fantastic job, and we didn't want to lose them, so that's why we are doing what we're doing with the charter amendments that's being voted on currently, and so hopefully that amendment passes. I think there's got, what, 3 or 4 of them, I can't remember the other two. Yes, sir?
If I may, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I could get your email, do you have an email, ma'am? We'd be happy to email you the documents so you can read on the amendments.
I don't think I really need it. I think I just wasn't quite clear on what it said before and why they were changing it and everything. And I think that, it sounds really good to me, but I was just reading the thing that we were voting on. I thought, man, I'm not quite sure I even understand what this means. So that's really been very helpful to,
On the securing their jobs, the only one that was secured according to the charter was the financial director, which is Mrs. Harris. She was the only one that we had to approve to be dismissed. She's a director, Mr. Kitco's a director, the fire chief's a director. The attorney is our law director, so why would they not be given the same courtesy as the financial director.
Yeah, I guess I
We
just
can't live
assumed they
without any
already
of them.
were. That's what was confusing me about,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
Go ahead.
And I don't know if anybody knows, the other charter amendment is typically everything we have in an agreement requires an ordinance. And there's a part in there that would allow just a basic agreement by a resolution. Some require an ordinance. Well, in the charter amendment, it will allow some of those that currently take an ordinance to allow a resolution on. It's not a law, but a resolution will speed that process up with certain agreements or certain projects we're doing. And that's the other charter amendment, is to allow resolutions for certain topics.
Okay, okay, good. Thank you
It's
very
really
much.
abbreviated.
Janelle, I hope we've
Confused you more?
carried your.
No, that makes it more understandable, because I just didn't realize, like, that some things council
Right.
approved and some things they didn't. I guess I just assumed council always had to approve that kind of stuff.
Everything pretty much that happens in the city, as far as legislation, we approve. As far as hiring and/or firing, well, we have to approve all hires of directors. Street workers are normal employees, that's manager's discretion, service director's discretion, fire department's discretion. Anybody in a director position, we have to approve their hiring, but we did not have to approve their dismissal if it would come to that.
Okay.
So that's why we did that. So we don't come in a meeting and the manager says, oh, I've cleaned the house, we're getting all new people, and we're going, what? No, you're not either. So that's the idea behind this, to stop that. So I'm not concerned about this manager, I'm concerned about a manager 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Janelle.
My name's Dylan. Wait, do I say my name?
Yeah.
My name's Dylan. I just had a question about
What's your address, sir?
122 North Clay Street.
Okay.
And I had a question about with the DR Horton and Arbor Realty building new homes. This been on my mind recently, but would they have to build a new school for Tecumseh if any of those schools overflow?
I think the short answer to that would be no. The long answer to that would be the school district would have to do that, and I apologize, Mr.
That's
Mayor.
all right, go ahead.
The developers are not required to build schools unless the schools hire them. If the schools needs a new school, they will do it through levies or through state funding.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for coming and addressing council. May I ask what grade are you in?
6th.
Sixth grade?
Yep.
That's awesome. You're getting involved in government, and that's how you learn things.
Anyone else? All right, if not, we shall move on to the resolutional section.
So resolutions, we have 4 introductions and 4 actions tonight. Resolution 2025-02R, introduction, public hearing, and action tonight. A resolution adding an authorized signatory for all financial accounts of the city of New Carlisle.
So moved.
Second.
An explanation of this ordinance is pretty simple. It's to add me as a signatory to all the financial accounts.
Any further questions? If not,
Councilwoman Wright,
Yes.
Councilman Lindsay,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eggleston,
Yes.
Mayor Cook,
yes.
Councilwoman Grove,
Yes.
Councilman Vaughn,
Yes.
and Councilman Shu.
Yes.
Accepted 7-0. Resolution 2025-03R, introduction, public hearing, and action tonight. A resolution providing for the advancement of funds from the general fund to the cemetery fund of the city of New Carlisle.
So moved.
Second.
In a summary of this, this is for the columbarium. We have multiple different points here between resolutions and ordinances that all revolve around the columbarium. Is there anything you want to expand on this resolution?
So on this resolution, this is to advance funds from the general fund into the cemetery fund. And of those dollars, it is to make this purchase in the foundation. The cemetery will then refund the general fund as niches are sold.
Any comment?
Councilwoman Wright?
Yes.
Councilman Lindsay?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eggleston?
Yes.
Mayor Cook?
Yes.
Councilwoman Grove?
Yes.
Councilman Bond?
Yes.
And Councilman Shan?
Yes.
7 to 0. Resolution 2025-04R, introduction, public hearing, and action tonight. A resolution providing for the permanent transfer of funds from the general fund to the street levy and government center funds of the city of New Carlisle.
So moved.
Second.
Again, for the summary on this one, it has to do with the allocation of funds for the street levy. Howie, is there anything you want to expand on this one?
I think council's aware of their motion to have this legislation before you for the $100,000 additional for the street levy fund and the $50,000 to go into the government center fund.
Prior to this motion, which was made by Mr. Lindsay, but I think it was a general consensus, we had been putting approximately $25,000 every year into a new city building. I think this had been going on for
5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
how long?
5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years. It was not building up much, so it was Mr. Lindsay's thought, again, we were going to have some major street work that's going to be taking place probably the end of next year or the following year. So we needed to get the street fund up to where we could afford it without going into debt. And with making the, I guess, building fund a little bit quicker, maybe some of us will see a new city building before we shall pass on. With that,
Question.
go ahead.
This resolution transfers that money now, or is it on a schedule?
The resolution is to transfer the money, but you'll see eventually a supplemental to actually spend those funds.
Right.
So right now, there's no supplemental. This is just to do an immediate transfer for savings.
Okay, so she's transferring 100,000 to the street and 75,000 to the, or the difference to the,
Yeah, we're actually going to move the 100,000, not into the street fund, but into the street levy fund.
okay,
Much easier to manage in that one.
okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Wright?
Yes.
Councilman Lindsay?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eggleston?
Yes.
Mayor Cook?
Yes.
Councilwoman Grove?
Yes.
Councilman Bond?
Yes.
And Councilman Shan?
Yes.
Resolution 2025-05R, introduction, public hearing, and action tonight. A resolution adopting the update of the Clark County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation 5-year plan.
So moved.
Second.
Again, as Ms. Clements Pitstick kind of explained, gave us a summary of the plan. It's a countywide plan to reduce or eliminate the impact of disasters to the local community. The EMA is tasked with the plan to qualify for federal mitigation funds.
Any questions?
Council,
I was just going to comment that
Okay,
it's
go
really
ahead.
a lot of work, and I do appreciate it. A lot of great information in there. It's really good to know.
okay, Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Councilman Lindsay?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eggleston?
Yes.
Mayor Cook?
Yes.
Councilwoman Grove?
Yes.
Councilman Bond?
Yes.
And Councilman Shan?
Yes.
7-0. The ordinances tonight, we have 2 introduction and 1 action. Ordinance 2025-18, introduction tonight, public hearing and action on 5/19/25. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of a columbarium for the city of New Carlisle Cemetery. Ordinance 2025-19, introduction tonight, public hearing and action on 5/19/25. An ordinance supplementing certain appropriations contained in New Carlisle City Ordinance 2024-66. And ordinance 2025-20E, introduction, public hearing, and action tonight. An ordinance authorizing the city manager or the director of public service, assistant city manager, to enter into an agreement with the Board of Clark County Commissioners for the 2025 roadway resurfacing project and declaring an emergency.
So moved.
Explanation on this one, Howie?
Nobody seconded it.
Oh, sorry. You second.
Second.
And
Any questions?
again, Mr. Kiko, would you mind giving an explanation of this?
Thank you again, Mr. Hall. So this ordinance is to sign on with the Clark County as they bid out for the project to pave all of Henry Street from Villa all the way to 571, a portion of Villa from Smith to basically the teardrop of Orth, and then Smith Street from Washington to 571, and any associated ADA ramps. And then there's, I can't remember if it's 12 or 16 ADA ramps up in the other section that we're doing annually to catch up in the Pepperwood, Spinning, Willowick area. And then with the bids being so favorable, we are looking to actually try to get at least half, if not a lot more, or get Orth completed this year. So then if I can get that done, and we'll be all the way to Clay, to the section where all the work was just done. And the reason is emergency, the Clark County Commissioners just approved this for the county on Wednesday, and we would like to get this over to them so that way A&B Asphalt would be able to start moving on if they want to come into New Carlisle early, which a lot of times they don't, but they may. And that is all I have.
Go ahead.
Yeah, on half of Orth, I was wondering if we could boot in the extra money to complete Orth possibly, because it just seems sad to do half.
It depends. I think I got about 82,000, and that may be enough to get there, because part of my original cost was, I always call the Orth Villa all the way from Smith all the way back to Smith, but we're at least getting that first part done, so we're trying to get the estimate updated as we speak to see if I got enough left over from it.
But if you don't, can we get something so we can pass that so you can have that?
If there's time, then there's possibility. We could potentially use a little bit of this 100,000 and do a supplemental, say, hey, I need an extra 15, because the contract's for 300 and it came in at 216, so I'm hoping within that, but if I don't and I need an extra 20, there is a potential for a supplemental if council,
Okay.
Mr. Hall desires to do that,
That'd be great.
Go ahead, Bill.
Follow up on Mrs. Wright's question. If you needed another 20,000 or 25 or 30,000, that could possibly come out of the general fund, could it not?
It could, just like this, the monies that were already being
Right.
transferred, we would just get a supplemental to spend that additional levy dollars that are being moved in from the general.
And that would, I don't believe that would require any legislation on our part, since it would be under the manager's spending limits.
It would be because it's part of the bigger project of the 300,000. It'd be amendment of the 300, so it could go to 320. I can't split the project up per
Yeah,
se.
you can-
Okay.
You see what
I
we're
see what you're saying now.
It's just the whole cost, even though the top cover is in my 35K.
Right. Okay. And everybody in this room knows I complain about emergency ordinances. And I understand why, because the county drug their feet, is why we have to do the emergency ordinance. And in full disclosure to anybody that's listening to this out there in YouTube land and the current audience we have, I think everybody in this town knows I live on North Henry Street. I probably should not vote for this. I probably should abstain because I do live on the street. That way nobody can say, oh, he voted for that because it's his street. That has been done in the past by council members. However, I've had conversations with several people on my street in the last week, kind of ripping me, why aren't we getting the street done? I have not given them Mr. Kiko's phone number yet. And now I can tell them that the street's going to get done. So thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Would you like to make a motion for a possible supplemental ordinance in order to provide that extra money if so needed?
No, because we have an ordinance and a motion and a second on the floor.
All right. Yes, sir.
Would the paving of, would the street levy like fund the full-on paving of Clay and Church Street?
May I?
Go ahead.
Those streets will not be done most likely until beginning of 2026. And the reason why, we just put in sewer, or water lines on all those streets. They've all been patched, is what I'm gonna say. The gas company notified us a month or so ago that next year, they're coming in, gonna dig the same streets up again to redo the gas lines.
Oh,
So we do not want to spend any money repaving any streets that's going to be dug up next year. So once they get done, then if we can't do it, if it's too late in the year, next year, in 26, wait a minute, this is 25, isn't it? So it'd be 27 before it gets done. So I got my dates wrong. If it gets done early enough and they get out of here and it's like in August, we might be able to get something done. Again, that would be up to Mr. Kitco, the service director, because he's in charge of all the streets and when things like that get done.
Yep.
So we got new gas lines coming, so we're not gonna spend any money paving a street just to have it ripped up again.
so this is kind of a question for the flight crew. Is this gonna cause a change of the route for the parade, or is it just gonna cancel it altogether?
No, it won't affect the parade, it won't affect the parade route at all, I don't.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And young man, the real person you need to ask that question to after the meeting is sitting right over there. Her name's Mrs. Lowry. She knows everything you need to know about that Heritage of Flight Parade.
Yep.
And I think she'll agree with me. It's not going to affect how they do their parade.
All right. So she's similar to me.
She's
I
what?
know a bunch too about it.
Mr. Mayor, I call for the vote.
Go for
Mayor Cook,
Yes.
Councilwoman Grove,
Yes.
Councilman Vaughn,
Yes.
Councilman Shammy,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wright,
Yes.
Councilman Lindsay,
Yes.
and Vice Mayor Eggleston.
Yes.
Accepted 7-0. So in other business, additional city business, the pool opening day is May 24th. The city offices will be closed on May 26th for Memorial Day, and now it's open for any other discussion for city-related business.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Question, Mr. Manager, for Mr. Kitco. What kind of shape is the pool in this year? I know every year it seems we have problems with it. Is it going to survive another year? Or maybe two?
Yes, sir. So another one of my fabulous meetings last week was my introduction to our new pool manager and also a full tour of all the inner workings of the pool. I can tell you it's kind of like lifting the veil a little bit of how we put all these things together, because again, it's a childhood, memory of mine. It's where I learned to swim, was at the New Carlisle pool. And I think for most of the folks in the town, we see it, on opening day, and it's beautiful. There's obviously some deteriorating things going on. The pool has been around since the 1960s, if I'm correct. What was the year? 1968. So yes, there has been some discussions just throughout the tour of, my general inquiry of, how long is this thing going to last? I have full faith in Mr. Kitco and his assessments of the pool. And, most importantly, is this a healthy and sanitary place that we can send, our vulnerable youth, for the, lion's share of the summer? And that's my primary concern. Is this place safe? for us to send our children to, along with families. And the reassurances I've gotten from Mr. Kiko is we would never make that dictation to sacrifice the bottom line of whatever money we get from the pool for the health and safety of our community. So as long as it passed all the tests as we start to fill the pool and clean everything off, we'll be, full gale on opening day to open the pool. But it is, I think, it's, pretty obvious when you really get into the inner workings of the pool that this is going to be, when we get into those strategic visioning type communications, along with, some of these, different grants and money that we have potentially allocated through these developments, that we are gonna have to make some decisions here of, what is our immediate need is, let's get this pool open for this season. But as we get into the season, I would like to start having these discussions of, okay, what's the, short-term, mid-term, long-term plan here for this pool?
I know in the past, we've made some major improvements over there with filters and pumps and various things, restrooms, painting. Any indication that something's going to have to be replaced, it's going to cost a bunch of money for the pool? I mean, it's.
I don't see it, but we always know, we go, every couple years, we might have to get a pump. As far as those renovation things we've done, we're doing good with that stuff. It's always going to be with the filters and pump, if we got to replace a filter, they only do last so long. And then, we do, as of right now, are looking good. Everybody's going through everything. The big thing is when we fill that water up and turn on everything from a winterization, that'll be, hey, we do have the money set aside for, one of those major things. If we do have to replace the pump, if we do have to put a couple filters in, we have that money sitting there, that was allocated in the budget. If something goes on beyond that, that what we don't see, because the guys that are doing this work have been doing this for well over 10 years, this maintenance, so they kind of see how a winter, different winters have produced different visual cracks and stuff. And they haven't, at this point, they said, hey, everything seems to be on par for a normal de-winterization. Let's just keep our fingers crossed and, we're not, we can get through most of the season without maybe having to replace a piece of equipment this year.
That would be awesome. Thank you. One more comment, if I may.
Go ahead.
And to the fire chief,
Yes,
you're
sir.
doing an awesome job.
Thank you, sir.
I hear your sirens all the time, and I think, wow, this is getting to be one busy department.
Yes, sir, it is.
So as long as all your people are safe and healthy and not getting injured out there, pass on the congratulations to
Yes,
them.
sir, I will.
Thank you. I'm done.
Again, I think he spent a little bit of time at my place.
A day or
So,
two? Did you come spend the night?
no, not quite.
I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Hall, what's the target date to open the pool?
With the turkey.
Kiko or,
It opens May 24th, the first pool operation day is May 19th.
awesome, thank you very much.
Then I can't.
It's gonna be cold.
It'll be cold.
Yeah.
You guys won't care, though.
I'll wake you up though.
We already have the meeting for next Monday night scheduled.
Yes, sir.
All right, anybody have anything else? Go ahead, Peg.
When when majority of council passed the ordinance allowing chickens, the majority of council also did not pass an ordinance with any kind of regulations on those chickens. And there were chickens loose on Galewood this weekend. So everybody knows that of the problems that we have with dogs getting loose in the city. And if a dog were to get one of those chickens, they'd put the dog down. And it's not the dog's fault.
I think the dog would
So-
have a chicken dinner.
Yeah, they wouldn't put a dog down.
They will put the dog down if it kills livestock. And chickens are considered livestock. So we need to consider getting regulations on these chickens put together.
If I could- We're aware, we also addressed a rooster issue this week, this previous week with Mr. Moore and Mr. Harris. And yes, I mean, there is an uptick, where we have neighborly complaints, whether you're looking at, Facebook or people calling into the city office. But I would also add that I probably had twice as many dog-related issues as I did have chicken-related issues.
Oh, I agree.
And I spoke with the dog warden on 2 separate occasions for failure to contain people's animals. So I would like to have a holistic approach to both dogs and chickens. And I think as we get closer here to getting back our code amendments and everything else, the code review that's being done at the consulting firm, that is absolutely, it's a health and safety issue, and then it's also a drain on resources. What limited code enforcement that we have within the community, we are adding additional issues when we're just trying to upkeep what we already have.
Right.
Within.
But, as far as the dogs, I mean, that's the county. And the shelter is shorthanded. Short of the city getting their own animal control and their own shelter, there's not a whole lot we can do about it.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we can talk about different code ordinances, what other communities are doing, things of that nature. We've also had dog attacks on humans. So
Oh, I
it's
know.
not just animal on animal. There's also people who have been victimized by
And those,
animals
and
as
those
well.
2 dogs were shot.
So, and I believe, this has been, again, a part of my onboarding. I spent a lot of times with our law enforcement and our deputies, talking about, where are the threats? Where are our issues at, and things like that. And I'm not saying dogs are at the top of the list, but this is, again, just kind of a whole holistic approach that we have with not only our civil code enforcement, but then the law enforcement element, and when those worlds intertwine, because you can very easily have an ordinance violation and a criminal charge in the same situation. So I would like to have maybe Sergeant Lehman also available when we have these types of discussions, because it's also impacting his department and his deputies.
In relation to the code enforcement, the northwest corner of Langdale and Zimmerman, I got a complaint on that property, and I think that property is vacant. So if you could have the code enforcement look at that.
What was that? Did you have an address, sir, or just on the?
It's the northwest corner of Langdale and Zimmerman. It's a blue house, plenty of dandelions.
That's almost every yard in the city right
Yeah,
now.
really.
It made the news, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Explosion.
I'll have
Thank
our
you.
enforcement look at it tomorrow morning.
Anybody got anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yes.
Councilman Lindsay?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eggleston?
Yes.
Mayor Cook?
Yes.
Councilwoman Drew?
Yes.
Councilman Vaughn?
Yes.
Councilman Schumer?
Yes.